Hello everyone, I'm Jeremy Holliday and this is my AEP 800 Module 5 presentation on barriers to Web 2.0. I wanted to start off by first summarizing the first article, Barriers to Using Web 2.0 in 21st Century Schools. I definitely agreed with the quotations you see there, lagging behind in integrating technology resources into instruction. I definitely would agree that our school struggles with implementing technology all the time into our instruction. I specifically could use some more help in presenting things to students in a way that integrates technology more, besides just me standing up at the front of my uh, classroom at the Promethean board. I think a big part of this struggle is due to lack of time. I feel that it is difficult as an educator to spend additional time at the end of the school day, especially as a parent. I know that I want to be an excellent educator, but there's also that fine line of I want to be well known for being a good husband and good father too. So I think also lack of training is another area that causes the lagging behind due to uh, very little time spent in professional development. I just feel that we would be so much more successful if our district would actually take some time to provide some PD for us in utilizing technology within our classrooms. The next article is 7 Common Barriers that Obstruct Tech Adoption in Education. I definitely agreed with a couple points in this, especially having a lack or no vision. This is my 4th year at my school, and I have never really heard a vision of what the technology plan is at our school. The high school and middle school is one-to-one iPads. The 5th and 6th grade is one-to-one iPads. 3rd and 4th is one-to-few, and 1st and 2nd grade is one-to-few for iPads as well. And kindergarten doesn't utilize iPads really. I also agree with the point lacking the money to invest in technology. I feel that if we had more funds, everyone in our school would be one-to-one. I think that I also agreed with the thinking beyond textbooks point, as our school has recently adopted utilizing Engage New York, which is an open educational resource, and so that's kind of that last point there. The digital divide, a quarter of the nation is without broadband. I was shocked to learn this at first. I think I get stuck in this view of everyone's moving to utilizing technology more and more. So when I heard that a quarter of our nation doesn't have broadband internet, it just blew my mind. So I think it's important moving forward as school districts that we keep this in mind in our homework policies, especially that when we send homework home that students need to have access to the internet, it's not going to get done, and our homework policies should reflect that. The Open Educational Resources article, I really thought that the use of open educational resources sounds cost efficient. I would be very curious to see what the difference would be between purchasing curriculum textbooks as opposed to an open educational resource, which you're going to be printing more papers of. But I did include there, we use Engage New York, and had tagged the website for my 2nd grade math. To go ahead and start dissecting some questions here, do you feel the digital divide can be resolved? Why or why not? I don't really think the digital divide can be resolved. I think that it's going to require some pretty drastic measures from our government to issue something similar to what the text talked about, with everyone needing to receive broadband internet. And I just don't really see that happening. I think that would be a great thing for the United States and would help our students out a lot. But when that happens, I will be excited, I guess. What skill sets do you feel 21st century students must acquire prior to graduation? I came up with a little list here. This is primarily from me going to some different conferences. Problem solving was one that jumped out at me. I know many employers are looking for people who can solve problems, and uh, I was thinking even in my own classroom, I have students come up to me and say, "Mr. Holiday, my glue stick's out." And I've said, "Well, what are you going to do about that?" I know I've got glue sticks that I've told them about that are at their seats that I've said, "Hey, everyone can use these," and they still come up to me and say that. So it just baffles me sometimes. I think soft skills is another thing. We recently were trained in Kagan at our school, and Kagan talks specifically about looking people in the eye while talking, being able to disagree appropriately, taking turns, etc. I think that I personally have zeroed in on this, and it's been eye-opening to me how much my students lacked in this skill, especially looking in the eyes while talking. I started greeting my students every morning, shaking their hand as they came in, and it's been awesome to see the confidence they've gained just from doing that. The creativity, I think, is another aspect. In order to move forward as a company, you have to have thinkers who will think outside of the box, and a creative person will always help with that. I think being able to have good teamwork is important. Many students today get stuck in front of a screen when they are at home, and they lack those people skills. And so being able to collaborate and communicate well within a team is important to a company's success. I think being a self-starter is important for you to look at a task and to tackle it. And even if that isn't what is correct, I'm sure that many bosses would appreciate someone who's going to at least start to tackle something. If they're doing it incorrectly, they can have a conversation about it. I also included tech savvy, as many jobs are requiring the ability to be successful using technology. I think tech savvy is an extremely important skill. What impact has the global economy had on your personal use of the internet? I personally have a smartphone, an iPad, and a laptop. We've got internet at home. I utilize social media, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. We also stream video at our home via Netflix or Sling TV. So definitely a big part of my family's life. What technology training do you still need to effectively integrate technology in your current position? I personally would love some more insight into helpful apps that work well for first graders and that are like smooth within the classroom. I find a lot of apps can be very confusing. There's in-app purchases, and yeah, I would just love more insight into apps that are more user-friendly, especially. I also would love to be able to provide some direct instruction without standing at the front of my room. I try to do this, but I sometimes feel locked into having to stand up by my Promethean board. And I really wish that I could utilize some app or something to be able to be walking around while I'm talking and not just be up at the front of the classroom like I'm on a stage. Is your school or district equipped with 21st century technology? Explain. I said to some degree on this. We have iPads and laptops, and that's awesome, and I think those get utilized a lot in this 21st century. But we have the older versions of iPads in our elementary school. That's extremely frustrating, as some of our apps that are newer cannot be supported by our iPads. I think that also another frustrating thing is the one to several sharing of iPads in our wing. It's really hard sometimes to want to integrate technology when my students are having to share iPads, and sometimes the sharing causes more issues than the presenting of the information. So I would love it if our school could be one-to-one and for us to be able to utilize technology more. Advantages of innovative practices in the schools. I think it allows students the opportunity to experience technology besides gaming. There's lots of students who utilize games at home, but I think it's valuable for them to get the chance to experience educational resources. I think it helps them become more fluent using technology, which is important because they're going to be using it in their future jobs. And I do think that it increases engagement for students. Technology seems to spark an interest, and I think a lot of that's because they are so used to having it at home as well. Disadvantages I think it creates an addicted culture. Students feel like they have to have a screen around them all the time, or that they need to be connected to it. I think this is a big thing for adults too. I'm not saying I am even good at this by any means. It's something I continue to have to remind myself I need to keep working at. I think also the soft skills, being able to address people face to face, that kind of ties into we're always looking at our screens as opposed to interacting verbally with one another. Have you experienced problems with cyberbullying or other inappropriate internet use with students? Personally, I haven't had any issues with first or second graders. I will say, as a middle school coach, I've had players who couldn't play due to the misuse of technology, sending inappropriate messages on their school iPads. So I appreciate you guys watching this video today, and overall, I really enjoyed this module. I'm excited to see where this 21st century continues to take us as educators in teaching. So thanks, and have a good rest of the class.